morning. Thanks for joining us for the Housing Call this morning. This is Anna Patterson with the North Carolina Housing Coalition. And without further ado, I will turn it over to our Director of Housing Policy, Stephanie Watkins-Cruz.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for your patience. Apparently, the closer we get to year end, the more technology would like to fail. So, RIP to my laptop. We're going to go ahead and kick it off. This is our last housing call of 2025. The main three things we're going to lift up today: the rescission of the HUD-NOFO and budget negotiations as they continue at the federal level, the House bipartisan housing supply bill that was introduced, as well as a latest update from the General Assembly at the state level. There is a new House committee that is going to look at property taxes. Before we jump into those things, just an organizational update. Many of you already know about this or may have seen it in your inboxes. So let's go ahead and mark your calendars for Housing Day 2026. The North Carolina Housing Day 2026 will take place on April 28th and April 29th in Raleigh, North Carolina. So we hope that you will join us to advocate for affordable, thriving communities in North Carolina. So the reason why we're asking you to save 2 dates is that on Tuesday, April 28th, we're going to gather for training and some networking. And then on Wednesday, April 29th is when we'll gather at the General Assembly and on Halifax Mall in Raleigh, North Carolina, to meet with our legislators at the General Assembly. And we're actually really excited this year. We added a fourth co-host. So Housing Day is going to be hosted by the North Carolina Housing Coalition, of course, Habitat for Humanity of North Carolina, the North Carolina Coalition to End Homelessness, and our newest partner that I'm so excited about, the North Carolina Community Land Trust Coalition. So in the call notes, you'll be able to sign up for updates on registration and other event details. There are some differences between the Housing Day that we had this year. I keep wanting to say last year, but we are still in 2025. The Housing Day that we had this year and then the Housing Day that we will have next year are going to be a little different. So make sure you sign up for those updates. As I mentioned at the start of this call, this is the last housing call of 2025. We are going to be back in January, and we will confirm that date with you. It will likely be the first or second Tuesday of January. Moving on to federal updates, HUD unexpectedly on December 8th rescinded the fiscal year 2025 Continuum of Care Notice of Funding Opportunity NOFO less than 2 hours before the first hearing in a lawsuit that was challenging it. The proposed changes to the NOFO would have drastically cut permanent supportive housing funds for COCs and put over 170,000 people at risk of homelessness at least. In a statement on their website, the Department of Housing and Urban Development says that they reserve the right to reissue the NOFO with changes that account for new priorities and intend to do so. The next hearing in the lawsuit is scheduled for this Friday, December 19th at 10 a.m. And if you're interested in streaming the hearing on the U.S. District Court of Rhode Island's YouTube channel, we'll have the link in the call notes for you there as well. The Senate is continuing to engage in negotiations around spending bills, particularly around transportation, housing, and urban development, or THUD. The THUD spending bill negotiations are supposed to be part of a larger minibus. And with the year-end recess scheduled to begin this Friday, it's looking like they may not have time to actually release the minibus text before they take the remaining 9 spending bills up and before their recess begins. So when they come back in January, they'll take up the remaining spending bills. The current continuing resolution, as most of us know, funds the government through January 30th of 2026. And so our partners at the National Alliance to End Homelessness and the National Low Income Housing Coalition are calling on Congress to hold HUD accountable to its promised 2-year COC NOFO cycle and to include language in any final THUD bill that would extend funding for previously awarded projects for another 12 months. There's an article that we'll link in the call notes for you from our partners at the national level that go a bit more in depth on the THUD budget negotiation, the COC NOFO, and just the analysis and importance of ensuring that this spending bill also renews all existing housing choice vouchers and emergency housing vouchers. On Thursday, December 11th, last week, the House bipartisan housing supply bill was introduced. House Financial Services Committee Chair French Hill and Ranking Member Maxine Waters. On the Subcommittee on Housing and Insurance Chair Mike Flood, as well as Ranking Member Emmanuel Cleaver, unveiled the Bipartisan Housing for the 21st Century Act. This bill contains some of the same provisions included in the Senate's Road to Housing Act, and it's on the agenda for markup in the House Financial Services Committee today and tomorrow at 10 a.m. Again, that link will be in the call notes for you to check out. The provisions in the bill include expanding manufactured housing opportunities as well as programmatic reforms for the Home Investment Partnership Program, Rural Housing Services Section 504 Home Repair Program, and Community Development Block Grant CDBG Program. There is going to be a section-by-section summary included in the call notes for you as well to check out. Another reminder, the Department of Homeland Security published a proposed public charge rule in the Federal Register on November 19th, and the public charge or comments due for this sign-on are due by December 18th, so that's this Thursday. So the public charge rule is receiving public comment until this Thursday, December 18th. A little bit of background on this rule. This rule allows for critical services to be considered when applying for a visa or a green card without specifying the programs under consideration. And if finalized, this rule would seriously harm immigrant families' access to key services and further create a culture of inaccessibility and fear. So if your organization provides direct services and or works with immigrant families, we encourage you to submit a comment using the Protecting Immigrant Families comment template. And our national partners, as well as the PIF template, have sort of framework included in them. We really encourage you to submit these comments by December 18th at 5 p.m. because after that it'll be closed. Moving on to state updates. On the legislative side, Speaker Destin Hall recently introduced the House Select Committee on Property Tax Reduction and Reform. The 23-member committee is charged with studying solutions to reduce the property tax burden on taxpayers in North Carolina while also balancing potential impacts on local government revenues. The committee's first meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, December 17th at 10 a.m., so tomorrow. And more info on the committee and the upcoming meeting can be found in the call notes or on the North Carolina General Assembly website. The candidate filing window ends today at 5 p.m. for the 2026 midterm election candidate window. If you want to check out an article by WUNC for information on some of the most contested races, we'll include that link for you in the call notes. The primary election day in North Carolina is right now scheduled for March 3rd, 2026. Again, we have a few upcoming meetings. Both are tomorrow. The House Select Committee on Property Tax Reduction and Reform meeting is happening at 10 a.m. tomorrow. And then there is another House Select Committee on Involuntary Commitment and Public Safety, and that committee will be meeting at 9:30 tomorrow. On the disaster recovery front, yesterday our Governor Josh Stein announced that the state is accepting applications for a new disaster recovery program to repair or rebuild small rental properties in western North Carolina that were damaged or destroyed by Hurricane Helene. This program is going to be administered by the North Carolina Department of Commerce's Division of Community Revitalization and is funded through the HUD's Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery, also known as CDBG-DR program. The small rental rehabilitation program is specifically targeting owners of 1 to 4 rental units per property that were damaged by Hurricane Helene. The property owners must agree to provide affordable rent rates for a 10-year period following program construction in order to be considered for assistance. And potential applicants that are seeking more information about the Renew North Carolina Small Rental Rehabilitation Program can visit renewwnc.org or call the number we'll include in the call notes. The North Carolina Emergency Management has extended the grant application deadline for volunteer organizations active in Rebuild's disaster grant program. So this is sort of a second part of that award cycle. This funding is for repair and reconstruction projects by volunteer organizations that are actively involved in actual and ongoing repair and reconstruction projects for homeowners affected by Helene in North Carolina. Applications are now due to the Department of Emergency Management no later than 5 p.m. on December 31st, 2025. again, this is a reminder, Renew North Carolina's single-family housing program applications are due on December 31st of the end of this year. So Renew North Carolina has had a program open for most of this year where homeowners that have been impacted by Hurricane Helene and need assistance with the cost of home repairs, reconstruction, or even home replacement are eligible to apply. The program is designed to address housing recovery needs that remain after all other assistance has been exhausted. So this program, again, closes at the moment. Will still be closing at the end of the month, and we'll have links to that application process and other details in the call notes for you as well. Moving on to reports, events, and resources. One thing to lift up, there's two pieces in particular. A report I want to lift up from the Turner Center for Housing Studies and NYU's Furman Center's Housing Solutions Lab, looking at the impact of the potential end of emergency housing voucher funding, as well as kind of what public housing agencies are doing as they search for solutions. And then the other report I want to lift up is from the Lincoln Institute of Land Policy, looking at who owns America. And this report digs into data around corporate ownership of residential land across the country. As always, I hope you all have a great rest of your week. Since this is the last call of 2025, I hope you all have a great rest of your year. It has been quite the year. As many of you know, there are a few things that are going to be different going into next year. Our county profiles will be delayed due to data collection delays thanks to the federal government shutdown. But we are still very much looking forward to sharing more information about our Housing Day in 2026, seeing you all again for our conferences, and continuing to engage with you all in this work. And again, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your year. Stay safe, stay warm, and reach out if you need anything. And we'll talk to you next year.